It started with a buzz on my wrist. I looked down and saw a message pop up from my husband's phone, still connected to the smartwatch he forgot I had. It wasn't work-related. It was from another woman. The message was simple. "Last night was perfect. I miss you already." That's when I knew. He was cheating. I didn't yell or cry. I just sat still, thinking. After everything we'd been through, this was how it ended. But instead of confronting him, I smiled, because I already had an idea forming in my mind. He thought the beach house in the Outer Banks was still our little secret. He didn't know I still had the keys, and he definitely didn't know what I had planned. The very next day, I filed for divorce quietly. I didn't tell him right away. I simply said I needed some time alone. He agreed, probably happy to spend more time with her. That gave me the space I needed to reach out to someone from my past. Daniel. Daniel had been a part of my life before I met my ex. We lost touch, but when I called, he answered without hesitation. He didn't ask many questions. He just showed up when I needed him. We got married quickly at a courthouse. No guests, no cake, just papers and purpose. Then we packed our bags and headed to the beach house. We arrived late at night. It was quiet, and the ocean sounded calm in the distance. We parked the car far down the road so it wouldn't be seen. Inside the house, I started setting the stage. I placed 2 wine glasses in the sink, left a bra under the couch, and lit a candle just long enough for it to melt a little. Everything looked casual, like someone had just left. I left the guest room door slightly open on purpose. I knew he'd come there with her, thinking it was his escape. I wanted him to feel relaxed, like nothing was wrong. Then Daniel and I went upstairs to the loft and sat quietly in the dark. We waited. I wasn't scared or sad. I felt calm. I had already walked away from the past. Now I was ready to face it. It was a quiet, clear Friday evening when Daniel and I pulled off the main road and parked behind a line of trees about a quarter mile from the beach house. The car was hidden well. No way anyone driving by would notice. We walked the rest of the way under cover of dusk, our footsteps muffled by the soft sand and pine needle. The sky was starting to darken, and I could already hear the sound of the waves rolling in. When we reached the house, I unlocked the door like I had so many times before. The key still worked. He never changed the locks. I didn't expect him to. Mark had always been too sure of himself, too lazy when it came to things he didn't consider a threat, and he never thought I'd come back. The inside of the house was just as we'd left it months ago. Dusty, a little stale, but nothing was broken or out of place. I turned on only one lamp, just enough to see. I told Daniel to stay quiet while I started setting the scene. I walked into the kitchen and took out 2 wine glasses. I poured a little red wine into each, then emptied most of it down the sink, leaving traces behind. I left the glasses on the counter, still smudged with fingerprints. In the living room, I slid a bra halfway under the couch. Not hidden, just forgotten looking, like someone undressed in a hurry and didn't think to pick it up. Then I took the candle from the coffee table and lit it just long enough to melt a little wax before blowing it out. None of it was loud or obvious, just enough to make someone pause and wonder, just enough to feed a man's ego. I wanted Mark to walk in and think, for just a moment, that he caught me being unfaithful, that I was the one sneaking around, that I was no better than him, because I wanted him off balance. I wanted him smug, ready to mock me before I pulled the ground out from under him. Before we went upstairs, I left the guest room door open, not wide, but just enough that it might look like someone had forgotten to shut it. Daniel and I climbed to the loft. We didn't talk. We just sat in the dark, the only sound the soft hum of the ocean outside. I checked the time, any minute now, and then we heard it, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. I moved to the edge of the loft and peeked over the railing. The door opened. Mark stepped in, grinning. He was holding hands with her. She was laughing. She was wearing my robe. Mark stepped into the beach house with a grin on his face, and Sasha clinging to his arm like a proud trophy. The place looked untouched, just the way he remembered it. A little dusty maybe, but still beautiful. It felt good being back. He'd told Sasha this was their private getaway, no more sneaking around. He was free. She giggled, spinning once in the middle of the living room, barefoot and wearing the white robe he said used to be his ex-wife's. "So soft," she purred, running her fingers along the sleeve. He laughed. "Technically, the house is still mine. Claire's probably journaling in a forest somewhere. She's fragile like that." Sasha laughed louder than she needed to. She always did. He liked that about her. She made everything feel easy. They dropped their bags by the door. Mark moved to the kitchen, looking for something to drink. That's when Sasha paused. Her eyes locked on the 2 wine glasses by the sink. "Hey, were you drinking before we got here?" she asked, a note of curiosity in her voice. Mark frowned. "Number Y," she pointed. "There are 2 glasses. Lipstick on one. That's weird, right?" He waved it off. "Probably old. We haven't been here in a while. Maybe Claire left them. She forgets things. Always has." Sasha didn't look convinced, but she let it go. Still, she walked through the room more slowly now, glancing around like something felt off. Mark didn't notice. He was too busy talking, still feeling smug. He was the one who came out ahead, after all. Claire never even saw it coming. Then Sasha moved toward the hallway. "Wait, what's this?" she asked, pointing at the slightly open guest room door. She pushed it fully open before Mark could say anything. Her scream tore through the house. Mark spun around, heart skipping. "What? What is it?" But Sasha couldn't answer right away. She just stood frozen in the doorway, face pale, staring at something inside. And for the first time that night, Mark felt the air shift, like something had gone terribly, terribly wrong. He didn't move at first, just stood there, frozen, as I stepped into the living room from the hallway. The heels of my shoes tapped against the wooden floor, slow and steady, until I stood in full view beneath the light. I wore white, not soft, bedroom white, not lace, not silk. It was wedding white, simple, fitted, and impossible to ignore. His eyes widened. He looked like someone had just hit pause on his entire brain. Behind him, Sasha hovered by the wall, pale and quiet, holding the robe tighter around herself, like she suddenly realized it didn't belong to her. A step behind me, Daniel appeared, calm as ever. He didn't need to say a word. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, watching. Finally, Mark broke the silence. "You're joking," he said, voice uneven. "What the hell is this?" I tilted my head. "You said I was fragile, that I needed time. I used it." His eyes shifted to Daniel. "You married him," he scoffed. "Claire, seriously? This is pathetic. You're trying to make me jealous?" I didn't answer. Instead, I took the folder I'd been holding and tossed it onto the coffee table. Papers slid out with a soft whisper, landing face up. Divorce papers, signed by both of us, notarized and final. He recognized them instantly. "That's real," I said. "It's been real for 3 weeks. You're not my husband anymore." He stared down at the documents like they were written in another language. "You blindsided me." "No," I said gently. "I just stopped warning you." His expression cracked, like he couldn't keep up. "You won't get away with—" I dropped something else onto the table. A flash drive, small, silent, and much louder than anything I could say. "What's that?" he asked. I folded my arms. "Proof, emails, transactions, invoices, all the fake companies, all the missing money, and all of it tied to accounts under my name. I kept the files. I backed them up. You used me to launder money, Mark, and now I've cleaned up." He looked between me and Daniel, then back at the drive. "You're bluffing." "I'm not," I said. "And it's already been sent to your boss." And the IRS Daniel stepped forward, not threatening, just solid. Mark flinched anyway. Sasha didn't say a word. She looked like she wanted to sink through the floor. "You should sit down," I told him. "You're about to lose a lot more than your wife." His hand twitched, then moved toward the flash drive, like he could still control the situation. But before he could touch it, Daniel stepped forward and said, calm and low, "Try." Mark froze, hand inches away, eyes darting between the drive and Daniel's face. The smug mask he wore earlier was gone now. Anger started to show through, raw, unstable. "You think this scares me?" he barked. "You think you've won something?" I didn't answer. I just watched him unravel. Sasha stood stiff in the corner, hugging the robe around her tighter. She finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "You said she hadn't filed. You said it was just papers, that you were waiting until—" Mark snapped at her. "Shut up, Sasha." Her eyes went wide. "You lied about everything," she muttered. "You said the house was yours. You said she was crazy." He turned on me next. "You set this up. You've always been like this, twisting things, playing the victim. You're not innocent." I stepped forward slowly, my voice steady. "You made me believe I was imagining things. Every time I asked questions, you made me feel guilty. You called me paranoid, dramatic. I stopped trusting myself. For years, he laughed bitterly. "Oh, come on. You were always insecure. That's not my fault." I didn't flinch. "You made me that way." Mark opened his mouth to throw more blame, but Daniel cut in, voice still calm. You didn't just lose your wife, he said. You lost your alibi. That shut him up. He looked at Daniel like he might lunge, but he didn't. He couldn't. Daniel didn't move an inch, but somehow he felt larger than the whole room. Sasha backed toward the door. I shouldn't be here, she whispered, half to herself. You were never supposed to be, I said. But you weren't the only one. Mark stood there breathing hard, fury in his eyes, fists clenched but useless. He finally understood. This wasn't about jealousy or revenge. This was about truth. And now he couldn't lie his way out. Sasha stood frozen, the robe suddenly feeling too tight, too warm, like it didn't belong to her anymore. Her fingers trembled at her sides as she looked at Mark, searching his face for anything that made sense. But he didn't meet her eyes. He didn't say a word. That silence said everything. You told me she was cold. You told me it was over, Sasha whispered, voice cracking. You said I was different. Still nothing from Mark. Claire's voice broke the silence, calm, controlled. You were different, she said. You were number 3. Sasha blinked, confused. What do you mean? Claire reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. A few taps, then she turned the screen to face Sasha. The photos slid across the screen like a slow-moving car crash. Mark, with a redhead in a hotel lobby, his hand too familiar on her lower back. Then another, him kissing a blonde woman on a boat, their drinks raised like they were celebrating something. 2 other women, Claire said, while he was lying to both of us. You weren't the other woman. You were one of many. Sasha snatched the phone from her, scrolling through the photos with wide eyes. Her jaw clenched as her fingers moved faster and faster, like flipping pages in a book she didn't want to read. She turned to Mark, her voice shrill. You told me I was it, that I was better than her. He rubbed a hand over his face. Sasha, come on. Don't, she snapped. Don't say my name like we're a team. Claire leaned in slightly. Want copies? I sent them to your phone. Sasha looked down just as her phone buzzed. The photos, all of them, sent directly to her messages. Claire smiled. Oops. Also, airdropped them. Didn't mean to send them to that kid's iPad next door, but too late now. Sasha's eyes widened in horror. What is wrong with you? Claire shrugged. You moved into my life like you earned it. Thought you were smarter. Thought you'd won. Sasha screamed and threw the phone onto the couch. You're both sick, she shouted at Mark, storming toward the door. You humiliated me. Claire followed her with her voice, not her feet. No, Mark did that. I just turned on the light. Sasha reached the door, yanked it open, then paused. Claire's final words cut through the room like glass. You were never the other woman. You were the practice dummy. Sasha slammed the door behind her. Mark didn't even follow. He stood there, pale and shaky, like the air had been sucked out of the room. His arrogance had vanished, replaced by something pitiful, panic. For a moment, I let silence stretch between us, watching him struggle to figure out what was left to hold on to. You don't have to do this, Mark said quietly. His voice cracked. We could fix this. We had something, Claire. I laughed, not loud, just enough for him to hear how empty those words sounded. You're only saying that now because you finally have nothing left to lie about. He stepped forward, almost reaching for me. You don't understand. I was under pressure. Things got messy. I didn't mean to hurt you. Daniel calmly walked over to the door and turned the lock. The click echoed like thunder. Mark noticed. What are you doing? Daniel looked at him, still calm. Just making sure you don't run before they get here. Mark's eyes narrowed. They? I walked to the table, picked up the folder Daniel had brought, and opened it slowly. Inside were pages of bank statements, shell company records, and transfers, all traced back to my name, but never my doing. We had a forensic accountant look at everything, I said. Daniel helped me. We've been building this case for a while now. Every fake vendor, every consulting fee, every shady wire transfer, it all pointed back to you. He looked like he might collapse. You set me up? No, I said. You used me. I just didn't let you finish the job. He dropped to the couch, head in his hands. Please, Claire, I messed up, but this is too far. Daniel stepped beside me. You weren't just cheating on her. You were laundering money through her identity, and now the evidence is airtight. Mark started crying then, not the kind that comes from guilt, but from fear. His shoulders shook, and he looked up, face red and wet. Claire, please, I'm begging you. I stared at him for a long second, then I shook my head. You're not sorry. You're just finally scared. He poured himself a drink with shaking hands, spilling half of it on the counter. The bottle clinked against the glass louder than necessary. His tie was loose now, shirt rumpled, face red and wild. He looked like a man who had just realized the game was over, but still refused to leave the table. This wasn't revenge, I said, finally breaking the silence. You don't get to be the center of my story anymore. This, I gestured around the room, to the documents, the silence, the locked door. This was clarity, self-respect, with flair. He scoffed and threw back the drink. Don't pretend you didn't enjoy this. I smiled. I enjoyed the truth finally standing in the same room with you. Daniel stood nearby, silent and still, the steady anchor in the chaos. He didn't speak, he didn't glare, he didn't move until I did. That was the thing about Daniel. He never fought for me. He made sure I could fight for myself and stood close enough so I never had to wonder if I'd fall alone. Mark staggered toward the couch and dropped into it, dragging his hand over his face. You ruined me. No, I replied. You did that all on your own. I just turned on the light. He reached for the flash drive again, slower this time, as if it might change something now. This won't stick. There's nothing on there but old texts and… What? Some wire transfers? I shook my head. There's more. You weren't just cheating on your wife. You were stealing from your company. You used my name, my accounts, my signature. You committed fraud, tax evasion, even bribery, if we're counting the payments to that vendor in Tampa. His face dropped. You went through my work files. No, I said. Your boss did. After I forwarded him the drive. 2 hours ago. He blinked. You sent this already? And to the IRS, I added. By now they've flagged at least 3 of your shell companies. He poured another drink, but didn't finish it this time. He just held it, staring into the glass like it might give him answers. But it didn't. Nothing would. You always said I was too soft, I said quietly. Too trusting. And for a long time, I believed you. He looked up, desperation creeping in. Claire, I cut him off. But the truth is, I wasn't too soft. I was just waiting, watching, choosing the right moment. The drink slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Daniel walked over and picked up the flash drive, then handed it back to me. Not a word, just trust. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I'm free. The room went quiet when the siren started. Not loud at first, just a distant sound cutting through the night like a warning. Then the lights followed. Red and blue flashed across the walls, bouncing off the windows. And Mark finally realized this wasn't just a threat. This was real. He turned on Daniel, eyes wild. You think you're a tough guy now? You think this ends with me in cuffs? Daniel didn't flinch, just stood still, steady as ever. Mark stepped closer, fists clenched. You don't belong here. This is my house. My wife, ex-wife, I corrected. And the house is in my name now. Should have read the fine print in the divorce papers. Before Mark could say another word, there was a hard knock at the door. Then it opened without waiting for a response. 2 officers stepped inside, calm, firm, professional. Mark Reynolds? One asked, already pulling out the cuffs. Mark stumbled back, now in nothing but his boxers and a stained t-shirt. This is a mistake! I live here! The officer raised an eyebrow. Not anymore, buddy. Mark's voice cracked as they pulled his hands behind his back. You don't understand. She's setting me up. I'm the victim here. The officers didn't argue. They'd heard it all before. I watched from the porch as they brought him out. His bare feet slapped against the wood, face twisted in rage and confusion. But the moment of perfect irony came when a car pulled up fast at the edge of the driveway. Sasha jumped out, phone already raised. Oh, this is gold, she said, hitting record. Smile, Mark. Say hi to everyone who thought you were a good guy. He tried to twist away, yelling something about slander and lawsuits. But no one was listening. His voice didn't carry anymore. It got swallowed up in the flashing lights and Sasha's commentary. Daniel handed me the same wine glass I'd used as bait the night before. I took a slow sip as we stood side by side on the porch. Feels quiet now, I said. Daniel nodded. Truth tends to settle things. We didn't say much else. Just watched as the squad car doors shut and the tires kicked up sand on their way out. As one officer approached me with paperwork, he asked, Name for the report, ma'am. I smiled and said it without hesitation. Claire Hayes, my new name, one I chose for myself. The sun rose slowly over the ocean, casting soft golden light through the kitchen window. The air was clean, calm, and smelled faintly of salt and old wood. We didn't rush. There was no reason to. Everything that needed to be said had already been spoken. Everything that needed to be done had already been done. I rinsed out the wine glasses from the night before, watching the foam swirl in the sink. Daniel folded the blanket on the couch, the same one we had quietly hidden under when we waited for Mark to walk in. We moved around each other with ease, no heavy words, no tension, just peace. The house was still, like it had exhaled, like it had been holding its breath through years of lies, and now finally got to rest. Daniel found the guest book tucked in the drawer by the fireplace. He handed it to me without a word. I flipped past the pages filled with neat, happy notes from vacationers and families, then found the perfect blank space. I took the pen and wrote slowly, making sure the ink didn't smudge. Claire and Daniel, married here June 3rd, took out the trash. I smiled, shut the book, and placed it back exactly where we'd found it. Then I walked to the freezer, opened the door, and reached for the old plastic ice tray, the last little symbol of what used to be. Mark's wedding ring sat frozen inside one of the cubes, metal dull and cold, trapped in the place where he used to hide his lie. I shut the freezer door and didn't look back. We loaded our bags into the car with no hurry. The sky was clear. The wind carried the steady sound of the waves crashing beyond the dunes. It felt right, clean. No music played on the drive. We didn't need it. Just the sound of tires over gravel and the sea growing quieter behind us. There was no guilt, no second guessing. What we left behind wasn't ours anymore. What lay ahead didn't need fixing. It was already new, quiet, solid. As the beach house grew smaller in the rearview mirror, I reached for Daniel's hand. He didn't say anything, just gave one quiet squeeze. And that was enough. Do you think Claire went too far? Or did Mark deserve everything that happened to him? Was leaving that wedding ring in the ice tray the perfect final touch? Or just plain cold? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm seriously curious to hear your take. And if you're into stories with twists, justice, and just the right amount of flair, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new one.